All right, we're on the, let's see, let's go to, that's an interesting recording view. Start the recording off, right. Okay, so if you're watching this video, you'll never see this, so that's the good part. So we just did a check-in, folks, and actually this is a good place to just talk about the check-in. So we just did a check-in, and so there's a query about, how are you coping with hard on the check-in, and you could also start from the other side, like as a general check-in and start with something positive, like in the personal law profile context, because really that personal law profile is the best place to start. And then you can also, if you're leading a group, you can have discussion around the materials I'm going to present here, as you'll hear some, I'll ask for some, I don't like to lecture, and I don't like being lectured to. So generally when I'm leading a talk, I like to engage the audience with questions and dialogue, and that way we're not stuck with just a monologue basically that can get a little dry from one person's perspective. So we had some really good responses to coping, and we all find ways to cope. And my general theme is, some people go to oblivion with their coping, and it helps them sort of decompress by going into oblivion. Some people go into their head and they sit in front of the computer. Some people go to sex and porn, and that helps them cope. Other people, they find ways to have hope or positive affirmations, and in the end, to change our subconscious, we sort of have to look at these skillful ways we can use this for the minimum of effort. So in our day-to-day life, we pretty much have our thoughts and our breath that we have within voluntary control, and we can move our body around. And then when we go to bed, though, we're not really taught how important it is to transition. We go to bed and we wake up, or we go into Shavasana in yoga, or our state of being in yoga, or during a spiritual, a group exercise, especially, is, what's your intention? Is your intention to establish a sort of some boundary, and what do you want to get out of it, and what are you willing to let go of? Those are some essentials, when you're leading something like this. So, coping generally means, for me, when times are tough, I'm at my edge. So where do I go when I'm at my edge? And so I go to comfort personally. Like, I've been eating, I've had 3 croissants in like 7 days, for God's sakes, and I haven't had 3 croissants in 5 years prior, so it's like, the story is, I deserve this, and we all have a version of this. Being a Taurus is also, earth signs seek comfort generally more than the others, but not entirely true, because we're all different. But then another one is, I seek medicine, I think, is what I seek, reharmony. So like, I do my practice, and so I cope in ways where I know where the mana is, I know where the refuge is. It's just a matter of how long I'm going to martyr myself for the world and keep giving, and before I need to sort of re-nourish. And that's it's sort of it can be viewed as extreme as selfishness, or even in a more extreme, narcissism. But this gathering energy, the Taoists refer to closing the blinds. We close the blinds so our energy doesn't leak out. One way we do that in yoga is with the bandha, where we clench our pubiococcygeal muscle, and we can clench our stomach all tight up into our abdomen. And we can also clench this loca here in the back of our throat and tighten all the sphincters, and we conserve our energy. And boy, in the modern world, when people do that stuff, they blow a gasket really fast. So what we're teaching in natural law is, you follow the steps and you learn the subtle signs, and then if you want to move on, you move on with training and support. You don't move on your own. In the West, we have this whole thing about, man, you just, the saying that I used to rebel against was, you need a guru to reach enlightenment. And I thought that was baloney. So no, you don't need a guru to reach enlightenment, but you need a guide, because the many mansions in my Father's house that Jesus refers to is a pointer at the many different realms of existence in our worlds of consciousness and inside of ourselves. and that intersect with other worlds, which I believe is, well, here's a good one. Here's a good one to read. It's an old alchemist. To the ignorant, the body is supreme, and they are incapable of realizing the immortality that is within them, and is them, I would add. Knowing only the body which is subject to death, they believe in death because they worship that substance which is the cause and reality of death. Deep stuff. So our realities are intersecting with each other. I think, yeah, see right here. So our realities are intersecting with each other. So what we don't want is this one on the right here. See, the practitioner, I'll get my little pointer going here, laser pointer. So over here on the right, you've got this, see, the healer, you want these clean boundaries. You still want to be able to connect, but you don't want to start taking on the other people's stuff. And so one way I also call this is you want to throw someone a rope and bring them up to the positive versus jump down in the negative with them, you know. And Gene got a little bit of that yesterday with me. Is you know, I jumped down into the negative, but see, the world I live within is multifaceted awarenesses that they're inescapable. Like, you know, for me, the sky is a huge part of my existence, and to see it distorted the way it is, there's a part of me that just finally snaps, basically. And that's what, so Gene provides the rope back up, if you will, out of that place that I can never escape. I don't think I want to lose that passion for the puffy clouds, you know. I want to be a champion and vision, you know, somehow transforming all this, you know, because it can be. And so we want to be able to throw people a rope down. And I used to be that guy that would shape shift for others, you know. We shape shift to make others comfortable. Anybody do that, you know?
Oh yeah, of course.
You know, so you know, we shape shift to make others comfortable, and we end up drained.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So there's this choosing function that is really, this is part of the class 2 PowerPoint, if you're watching the video. We looked at class 1 last time, and I'll go briefly through a few points on that. But the video and the PowerPoint for that is on the dashboard. And if you want to review, because the last one's about who are you, and this one's more about, you know, how are you interfacing with your relationships. And so here's our relationship with choosing, like for food and self-care. So there's this loop we get in where if we aren't clear, then we don't make clear choices. Like I'm going to pick on someone I know, but not a name, is, you know, if you live in an environment next to a freeway with power lines around your house in a box, basically, with, you know, the fumes and all the EMFs that come with that sort of environment, it doesn't generate healthy thoughts and feelings. And so it's like trying to be joyful while dancing on nails, basically. You know, it's like not skillful use of energy to me. That's why we're out in the mountain, you know, you're on the mountain, or where I am here in Aptos. It's like, it's clean energy, you know, and so we're like tea bags in our environment, you know. And so if the chooser is broken, then me personally, when I'm in the city, oh man, I'm way more subject to making bad food decisions. Like, oh, pizza, whatever. I don't feel that good anyway. You know, and so out here in nature, though, it's like nature imbibes us to want to jump towards the light. But the city's like this dumbed down, gray, dark, concrete, rectangular, geometric energies that confuse our limbic system and make us sort of dumb down.
Yeah.
You know, so there's somewhere we have to break the link. And, you know, Shankara and all the old yogis talk about there's many paths up the mountain. So I chose food and asana personally because I knew that, well, I was vain and I wanted to be the age I am now and still look decent. So, turned out pretty well, all that vanity cleansing, skincare, surfer stuff. So now we get to teach it, give it back, and choosing as part of it is looking ahead. How will this choice affect me? Okay, well, if I don't have more energy after I eat, like instead of having this huge bit of steak that Bernie and Jean helped prep for me, I had half of it, and my body said, that's it. And it was like, okay, I'm done. And instead of a whole carrot, half of a carrot. Instead of 2 celeries, 2/3 of a celery. I'm monitoring my gyroscope inside all the time, monitoring what's next, chew, chew, chew. Okay, what's the guidance now? Because it's gotten to that point in the world where I have to listen to Grace or I'm in deep doo-doo. So my chooser is crystal clear most of the time. Jean got to see the disharmonized chooser of someone that hasn't had any cave time since 8-9 days, maybe 10. And so when I don't get my cave time, my quiet core, establish my gyroscope time, then the world, I'm like a weeble wobble. And I was pretty weebling yesterday and wobbling pretty good. So without Jean, what I do is I just internalize. And so it would have taken, without Jean yesterday would have been, 2 days work easily. So health alchemy, I realized at some point, health alchemy had to become a we, because one person, I was on the same sales level for 5-6 years at about $250,000, gross, and then, netting, netting barely enough to survive because of all the costs it takes to run a business. And for me, I decided that a business is the wrong angle. I'm going into a private membership, and we're going to have people that believe in the vision of health and nature. I mean, what kind of a ministry, you can't even have a life without health and nature. So who would disagree with that premise? Like, I don't like your ministry and they're crazy. You're preaching health and nature there. We want pharmaceuticals, So it's like, we're on the winning team with health and nature for sure. Bill Gates and his clan are definitely on the losing team. So we want a winning team here. So we need our nervous system and our endocrine systems working well. That's where this slide comes into play. I can't blow that up anymore, but it says gut-brain link, the vagus nerve, the immune system, short-chain fatty acids or brain food, tryptophan, mood regulator, the microbiome ecosystem with the intestinal tract, which is essential for well-being, microbiota, many types of gut bacteria and some fungal species. You see all the spinal nerves. So when we're well-regulated, see, we're in this balance of catabolic and anabolic. Anabolic is building, catabolic is tearing down. So look where most Americans are. They're over here on the left, right? Overeating, late eating, bad food combinations, improper food, stress, cortisol excess from coffee, and then prednisone use and steroidal drugs. So on this one side, the easiest one is right here, sleep and rest. That's about as free as healing gets. And it's just dumbfounding to me why clients don't just do that more. It's free. Go lay in bed for a week. But it's free. I'd rather take a pill. What? Substitutes for rest. Or there's a lot of people trying to get out of the radish thing too. And if you're watching this video and you're not eating radishes, then you're going to have to take the standard processed radish pills, which are pretty chewy and unsavory themselves. Radish is a medicine that's sulfur driven. Same with the raw onion family. The radish is a crucifer. So the spice in the crucifers and the onion family has this sulfur. The spice is the sulfur, and sulfur goes through cell membranes and causes change. So it causes wind in Chinese medicine and Ayurveda, which in the case of wind and vata derangement is farting and gas, burping. So DMSO, glucosamine, MSM, that's the main element they're sharing in there. They're all sulfur donors. So these are the things we learn in natural law, very basics. And if you want to go further, you go into personal alchemy, which is a different group, but it's more based in the deeper stuff we're presenting from natural law. And so we're trying to find this balance where we want some insulin, but not too much. We want some DHA and human growth hormone, HGH, human growth hormone. And I mentioned comfrey up here as near this because comfrey is one of the most highly anabolic building herbs. It's a phenomena. I mean, honestly, I champion comfrey everywhere I go. I probably have 4 or 5 pots of it now and left it in the last house. And the people that live in that house, I got to call the owner and remind him, they'll never be rid of it. I don't think they will ever be rid of comfrey. Once it's established, it's almost impossible to get rid of. And why would you want to get rid of it? It literally proliferates cell growth. It's a cell growth proliferant.
How do you take it?
In the summer, you can use the greens, or the spring. You juice, I blend them with water and then strain out the juice and drink that. You can pulverize them with water and drink the juice. You can eat them, but they're just really hairy, not very palatable. And then in the wintertime, in the fall and the winter, you can pull up the roots and dry them and make tea, or you can boil up the roots and make tea with the dried roots.
Tea from the roots, and the leaves, not so much for tea.
Well, in the wintertime, you don't have any leaves. And so the allantoin, or the active ingredient or process, is where the plant growth is. So in the wintertime, its energy is in the roots, more of the process there. And in the summertime, it's up in the leaves. So you're using the leaf matter.
So just juice it, drink the juice.
It's a regular part of my juicing. Yeah, like there's a couple of plants. Gynostemma is another one. It's a complete protein, which means it's going to be anabolic, and it's got chlorophyll and adaptogens. And then I'm going to have a whole piece on Gynostemma. I'm going to do this Gynostemma launch. It's going to rock the world with Shahid. But then the other one is nettles, the common field nettle or the river nettle. Those 2 nettles, Urtica, I don't know I know the genus, not the species. It's Urtica dioice, I think, is the one in the forest, and then the one on the field is Urtica something. But they're a complete protein also, and their seeds are very nutritious. So there's nettle root is used. So nettle's another one of those plants would be in my top 10 along with comfrey, certainly Gynostemma. So when you hear someone like Craig Lane say top 10 plants, you might want to get your notebook out, because I'm 35 years into this. And the premise of all the plants I have now, which is probably around 100 different species with me in the current nursery, is, Jean saw it with her own 2 eyes, we moved them all, is they have to be easy to grow, adaptable, and produce at least 10 to 20 different results, or actions in people. So I've narrowed that, refined that down to what I have now. And that's why this has to survive, because this is not difficult gardening. When I pulled this thing up 15, since I live with Hunter in San Luis Obispo, this is the same stuff I started with in San Luis Obispo, Hunter.
Wow.
And I've been still carting it around, and Gene has seen the current version of it, but Hunter saw the beginnings of it, Gene, back 25 years ago. That's how passionate I have been with plants. So Hunter is the old school and Gene's the new school, but there's the bridge right there.
Nice. Gosh, I want to get some of your babies.
Yeah, the Gynostemma will be doing cuttings. There'll be like a work day, and in about a month or 2, if it stays warm, it'll be proliferating, and you can root the cuttings easily. You pick about 8 nodes on the stem and cut off the bottom 4 nodes and put them in water and bless it. And, willow bark sometimes helps, rooting hormone. And then you have a whole new plant. I like to do it by grace myself and let nature decide. I don't like the rooting hormones, because then you're putting in, because it's already a cutting, and the plant will naturally root wherever it goes anyway. It's a very, Gynostemma is a really interesting plant. It has runners that go under the earth, and it also will send a tendril out, and then the tendril, if it goes too far, will land on the ground, but it'll root on the ground sometimes.
What's the common name?
So it's an amazing plant.
Does it have a common name?
Sweet tea vine, sweet tea vine.
Hmm.
And in Chinese medicine, it's called Jiao Gulan, Giaogulan. Jiao Gulan is its TCM pinyin name in Chinese. I don't know very much of the pinyin, but I do know that one because this plant's so important.
Hmm.
So Hunter, yeah, this is a plant that will change the world. And if you're watching the video, get ready because I'll be launching this thing. Gynostemma green juice for the world is kind of what's going to be coming.
Hmm.
So let's see. I don't think this is the last slide on this topic. This is an important one, I think, just in terms of, this was an old handout I put together based on my study of blood sugar. So if we don't choose well, and Jean wants to do a chooser workshop. So this is where Jean has, the ladies are great with the embodied work, and you do how you're feeling and the emotional part of it. And then Craig comes in. It's almost like, it's almost a good cop, bad cop thing. I'm going to come in and this is the way it works. And if you don't like it, like my teacher, Michael Tier, was like that. He would make people cry, literally. He was a horrendous bad cop, but he had a lot of people that lived because of him too. He'd be like, you can't be a vegan. Look at that. You're just never going to bleed again. Look at those no menses. He would just go on and on and on and just watch these girls just shrivel up, but they would live because they would start eating meat because he pressured them that hard. And sometimes that's not an attack that I like personally, but there's a context, and he wasn't that way with everybody. He was very calm and gentle with me. So see, apex of the pyramid. I knew this years ago. I made this 15 years ago. Apex of the pyramid, our thought process, clarity and decisions, ability to adapt and let go. So the dance is how we see, so we can have lifestyle issues here. So we need time to reflect and be, some more than others, outside time, most people more than others, nourishing relationships, rest breaks and timeouts, and sleep. So we want to stick to harmonious patterns, right? And so we want to do a lovely dance. I think this next one goes into it a little more. Yeah. So you want a nice, smooth dance of life, good food, the wild ride of blood sugar from refined foods and stress with no rest. Chronically large swings in blood sugar cause fight or flight alarms to go off many times throughout the day. A lot of people can't finish their sleep at night because this system is all dysregulated. I call it the blood sugar roller coaster. There's also frequency warfare going on around us right now too. And all the empathic people are telling me they're waking up at night. And one young man even said he's hearing like sounds and almost like voices. And I think I know what he's talking about because I'm hearing some very strange sounds in my own, and sometimes in the middle of the night. And we're up in these eucalyptus trees that are sort of a portal, and they've got their own little deal. So we want to be clear. A little bit technical here, but it's worth mentioning is if you know your metabolic type, which I have a questionnaire for, we'll have a hyperlink in here, your blood type and your ancestry and your context or life goals, then we can help you to have clearer decisions. Because Barry Sears wrote a book called The Zone many years ago, The Zone. And so the premise was, if you'll be in the zone if you know your unique amount of carbohydrates, fat, and protein. And I would add in the types of which and at what time of the day. If you nail those three things, the amount of protein, carbs, and fat, and the right types of those at the right times of the day, you will be in your zone all day. I'm in my zone. I know that for a fact. So when I'm active, I get a carb ration and the croissant craving comes in, and I know when I'm active, that's okay. If I'm sitting at a desk, working in front of the computer all day, croissant is not going to help my body because I don't need the fuel because I'm sitting on my butt. I need the essentials, which are protein and fat. That's a good general rule for someone over, 30 to 540 that's sitting around a lot is you have a carbohydrate ration. The more you're moving and exercising, the higher your ration. And so the baseline is about 100 to 150 grams a day. Is sort of a more of a paleo type, not a ketogenic type. Ketogenic's down to 30 to 50 grams of carbs a day. And these people can't even have sauerkraut, for God's sakes, because there's too many carbs in those. It's like greens and fat and meat and cheese, and you're really limited. But there's a reason for that, and like that, what was it, Atkins? There was a reason for that, and it worked for certain people, but it doesn't work for everyone at all times. And so we want to be able to adapt too. If we live in Alaska, we're not going to be able to be a raw food vegan. You just can't. But you want to be in Costa Rica, sure, be a raw food vegan, because you have thermal energy around you and heat, which means you need cooling foods. If you have those same cooling foods, they won't be growing in Alaska. So you're eating raw. That's why they kill the animal and throw it in the snow for the winter in Alaska, and they cut raw chunks of the meat out and pretty much just eat it raw. Because that's the way what's the way you survive is the rich foods with meat and protein and fat. Because you have to develop that thermal energy somehow that your environment's not providing for you. That's why you have the fire. That's why you have the fire and the heavier foods in the colder environment. And ideally, those heavy foods are raw. Ideally, if your health isn't good, you have a certain, when we're younger, we have more vitality, we can get away with using our enzyme reserves up. But that's another thing about our clarity is that if you have brain fog, you also have digestive problems, that means you have an enzyme deficiency, almost certainly, because thinking requires enzymes. Thinking requires enzymes. So people that have brain fog and digestive issues, they're choosing the wrong foods and they're probably overeating. I have a whole piece with that myself. So if you're watching this video, you may see this piece with me here clipped in with other video pieces because this is one version of the same class. And this is really important for discernment to get your diet down. I mean, we're not going to go into the details of all this right now. I think this last one is important. So instead of client context, you could just put, what are our dreams in life? So how do you facilitate your dreams in life? And that's kind of what we're here to do, to help people facilitate their dreams in life and to thrive a bit more and really enjoy ourselves more. So if you missed the first video, then through the dashboard, you can find that right here. And then there's the video for the first class that's already made. And then this video will be another second option allowed on the menu. You can watch the first or the second round of this. There's two versions of that class. There's only one posted. And there's another version of this class called the other in your personal law template. So for a quick review, I'm in a phase of moving my life around, including hundreds of plants. So I'm looking at areas that when I'm on my edge, what am I tolerating? And so I'm going through the more negative parts of this and really studying where I'm at with my edge compared to where I was July of last year, I think. July, yeah, so I did this in July and things were very stable in July. So now it's unstable. So I will look at the positives and the negatives now and see what maybe just changed for me. I want to thank Hunter and Bernie and Jean for attending this one. And there's always, there's one thing that in today's world is remember that there's always hope. I have a couple of people that come into my life here and there. And one person that came into my life, quote, was hopeless. And then I was able to give hope and to see someone light up is one of my just greatest joys in life. And so I'm seeing that a lot, where we can turn hopelessness to hope. And I'm going to say goodbye to my friend Hunter here and signing out.